Hi, this is David Heine, and today we're at Footsbarn Theatre. Now, this is a unique travelling theatre group that originally started in the south of England, Cornwall, now is headquartered in France. This is a group of players that travel around not unlike the Renaissance players of Shakespeare's time. They bring their tents, a lot of vehicles, and an entire group of players and technicians, and present theatre in the round, maybe reminiscent of the very beginnings of theatre in the Greek period. This is living theatre, out there, not an elitist group, but out there bringing theatre to the people. So I hope you enjoy this program, and I hope you'll enjoy meeting some of the actors. Paddy, I'd like to ask you first about the Footsbarn Theatre itself, a little of the history.
Well, it's a long history because it started in 1970, 71. So we're in our 28th year now, 29th. It was, and still is, originally it was a collective of artists, was the sort of phrasing about it. It was actors, musicians, people who made masks, costumes. It was always a group of people whose aim was to take theatre to the people rather than... in the very beginning, geographically, we were born in Cornwall, which is the southwest, one of the most rural areas of England. There were no theatres. There was one there was one in Truro City Hall. So we played on the streets, we played in the pubs, we played on the beaches, we played where people were, and the aim was to try and get theatre accessible to people, and therefore always had the edge of being a popular form of theatre rather than what should we say, elitist. Or so for the early years we certainly didn't do Shakespeare. We thought that this was not, you just didn't imagine that you could do Shakespeare in villages, and we went through a phase where we were even producing the old classic pantomimes, Robin Hood, Peter Pan, Tarzan. Great fun. I mean, they've all been to Amsterdam as well. I mean, we started coming here in the 70s, I think it was 75, maybe even before. No, 73 was the first time we came to Amsterdam. Amsterdam experienced our days of the pantomimes and also began, like England, to experience Shakespeare when we first produced. We did a version of Midsummer Night's Dream in 75, I think it was, and we didn't even have the courage to call it the right title because we thought it would put people off. That's how nervous we were about this. And we called it Midsummer Madness, which was also quite suitable, which only 5 of us doing it. That came to Holland, and that was like the first touch of playing Shakespeare. Since then, we've realised that there's no danger really of working with probably one of the greatest writers ever, and a man who certainly writes popular theatre. It was that first fear. So by the time we left Cornwall, which was in 81, We had by then produced, first of all, this Midsummer Madness of Shakespeare, and then we produced Hamlet, which after travelling through the villages after 8 to 9 years, even in a tiny village hall, we could fill it with the people of the village, with children, with families, to sit and watch both The Tempest and Hamlet, in fact, we produced, and discovered that, of course, it was popular and strong and everything that it is. In 81 we left Cornwall because, in fact, the story, we were touring quite a lot in Holland and Germany around the end of the 70s, linked to the Festival of Fools, which I'm sure people remember. And in fact, we were playing in Bochum, quite a big, heavy-duty festival, German festival. And the party they gave us was in the back of something like a cattle truck or something, and it wasn't really as joyous as. So we went for the drink and made a big decision that we were going to get the hell out of Europe, or get the hell out of being in this circuit, which it appeared that what was going to happen, we were beginning to play bigger theatres, and it was beginning to, it was working. And we just said, let's go around the world. Let's go. Let's not get caught up in just a circuit that maybe yes, earns your living, but it wasn't enough. So that night we pledged, like the Knights of King Arthur, that we would go world touring. And in fact, we left in 81. We left England sort of virtually. We did a show in a little village hall. We'd already moved out the building we were in. It was the night of the census, when they count how many people are living there. And we weren't there anymore. We were living in the woods. And we headed off, first of all, to Avignon, where we've been invited to the official Avignon Festival, which we've now done 4 times, and why really France is our home, because it takes care of us. You have to be taken care of when you're 30 people and trying to run something like this. The French have become our sort of godfather, or it was sort of like godfathers and godmothers and everything else. And so we set off on this thing, and it took us via Avignon, and then we were literally nomadic for 5-6 years. A lot of time in Spain, in Portugal, and then in Italy. And since then we've done huge tour. We went to Australia for 15 months, drove all the way around it with 4-wheel drives and tents, and had a repertoire of 4 shows. King Lear, which also played here, Chinese Puzzle, which is played here, the Circus Toss-Off, which has played here several times, and we produced Macbeth there, which then did a tour of all the Stadschouwburgs of Holland, for example. So we've done various. We don't only play in tents, we also play in theatres. This is our way that we can live the way we really live. In other words, our children go to school nearby. They don't have to cross cities or do anything like that. We have our own bar where we can relax. We are in our village, and that, in a way, is the easiest way to live our lives. We've just finished a tour in France. We now live in the middle of France, in the Auvergne, in a village called Hédisson, which means hedgehog, which is a delightful medieval village with a long theatre history. And we've now gone back in time, and we try to, every 2 years, tour in the villages like we did in Cornwall, outdoors, with a stage and a few benches and a few lights. We've just done 2 months of that, which is quite a contrast to Amsterdam City or Paris, or really we played in communes of, bless you, we played in communes of 30 people, and we'd have 300 people. So it's always it's an interesting dilemma that you can come to a major city and have far less than in a village. I just think there's probably too much going on.
We are in Amsterdam, and you're here at the
Yep.
Westergasfabrik.
Yeah.
What are you playing right now?
We're playing two productions. We have a repertoire of 3 this year. We're playing The Winter's Tale of Shakespeare, which is this week. And next week we move on to Don Juan of Molière, which we play in French, which is, again, a bit of the result of becoming a French-based group. We obviously began to feel that really we should have a shot at least, you know, playing their writers and their language, partly linked to the thing of going back to villages, where we said, okay, if we're going to go to villages, obviously the language direct does help, and we chose Molière because he's probably the popular man. The Shakespeare of France, yes.
So you have what seems, in looking at your playbill, a very international group. How has that come together? I mean, it was originally a commune type thing.
It was originally a commune, yeah. We tried to lose that. Well, not try to lose it. Obviously, that period's gone, in a sense. Although some still exist. We're really, like I said, it's a collective. It has unusual things like equality of pay. We've always had that. We've always guarded that. We've kept some things that are collective based. The fact that the group supports a school for our children, you know, links to this. The reason it's become international is because of it's travelled. I mean, we now have Polish people, we have Indian people because we've been to India. It's through meeting people on our journeys. All encounter, as most things are, really, or rencontre, as the French say.
Well, we spent some time this last summer in Godancourt, which is in Bihel, which is in the northern part of France, and they were putting on like a pageant in the little village, and so I have the understanding of what you're talking about. You know, they had out there, and the people seem very appreciative of that. Now, we've moved from that egalitarian 70s, as you talked about early on, to the late 20th century, where everyone seems very self-centered in many ways. And how is this kind of collective theatre perceived by people, do you think?
Well, certainly in France it's received and respected, which is, I think, again, I said that we are based in France because we feel supported. I think, in fact, there's a great respect for what we've done and are doing. People, you know, there are certain towns where certainly Footsbarn's coming even to play. I mean, we put this up sometimes outside a huge cultural centre. You know, they've got the theatre, they've got the cinema, they've got everything behind them, but they want this there. So there must be something that they. I mean, it's all, when we talk about collective and things, I mean, we're a group of over 30 people with everything. I mean, that's with teachers, people who look after the place we live in, who look after our vehicles, administrators. I mean, it's big now. It's a lot bigger and heavier than it was, but it still has this, we try to keep this collective idea, or the fact that it's, you know, it isn't, Footsbarn is not an employer. That is the thing that I fear. Not fear, just that thought is against certainly my way of thinking and against the way the group feels. It's obviously difficult to maintain. There are 3-4 of us here from the very beginning, and then there are people who come in new. Of course, it's difficult. You know, there are moments where the people coming in can never feel they've had the history because they haven't. They can't feel to be at the same position within it. But I think we do pretty well. Like next to a train station, so we can listen to trains all the time.
Now you're playing a repertoire tomorrow night, which is what, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
You'll be playing The Winter's Tale. When can people come and when does it start and what?
8:30 every evening except the Sunday, which is 5 or 5:30. So say 5:30 on Sunday. Otherwise 8:30 every night, Wednesday till Saturday. And please come if you're there. And next week is the Don Juan from Wednesday to Sunday as well. 2 of the greatest writers, and a lot of people know us out there.
To satisfy your highness and the entreaties of our most gracious mistress. Satisfy the entreaties of your mistress? Satisfy? Oh, Camillo, let this suffice. I have trusted thee with all things dearest to my heart, as well in my chamber counters, where priests like them are satisfied. But we have deceived, and thy integrity deceived, and deceived so. Forbid, my lord. Hast thou not seen, Camillo, nor heard, nor thought? My wife is slippery! Now if thou wilt confess and be infinitely negative, thou no eyes, nor ears, nor thought, then say my wife's a hobby horse, and deserves a million frights and in flash with a slave before her from flight. Now say it, justify it! I would not be a stagger-boy to hear my sovereign mistress clouded so without my present vengeance taken. Whispering nothing. Meeting noses, leaning cheek to cheek, kissing with inside lip, horsing foot on foot, slouching in corners, wishing clocks more swift. Why, if this be nothing, the world and all that's in it is nothing. This covering sky is nothing, Bohemian is nothing, my wife is nothing, nor nothing happens nothing if this be nothing. Good, my lord, be cured of this diseased opinion, for 'tis most dangerous, simply for 'tis so. No, my lord! It is, thou liest, Camilla, thou liest, and I do hate thee! Were my wife's liver as infected as her life, why she would not have the running of one glass. Was it matter? Why he that wears her like a metal about his neck. Bohemia, who, if I had servants true about me, might do that which should undo more doing, I and thou his cup-bearer, who makes his plain as heaven sees earth, and earth sees heaven, how I am called, mightest by merely a lasting wink, which draught to me were cordial. My lord, I can do this, but I cannot believe this crack to be my dread mistress, so sovereignly being honourable. Oh, my God, my go rot! Dost thou think I so money, so unsettled? Drop myself in this vexation, sully the purity and whiteness of my sheets. Give sand and replace my son without ripe moving to it. Could I do this? Could man so blench? My lord, I must believe you. I do, and will fetch off Bohemia from it. While that will is removed, your highness will take your queen as yours at first, even for your son's sake. You to advise me, even now as mine own course have set down. I'll give no blemish to her. Go then, and with a countenance as clear as friendship wears at feast, keep with Bohemia and with your queen. And Miss Cabrera, take it from me, yeah, the wholesome beverage. I got to be not your son. This is all. Do it. And you have one half of my heart. Do it not. Thou splittest thine own! I don't, my lord. I shall appear friendly. As thou dost advise me.
Agieszka. Beautiful name. Now you play one of the parts in The Winter's Tale.
Yeah.
What part are you playing?
I play the queen.
And let's get a little background on the play itself. You're Polish, I believe. How did you end up with what originally was a English player troupe?
I think it was the effect of the traveling. Footsbarn came to Poland 10 years ago with the big festival of theater, traveling festival, which started in Russia, go to St. Petersburg, Warsaw, Prague, Berlin, just 2 months before the wall in Berlin fell down. And then I met second time Footsbarn, and it was like, for me it was like a dream. Suddenly saw this company which play Shakespeare, traveling everywhere in the world. And by accident I met the friends which work with Footsbarn, which was technician, and he say, Footsbarn, look for the actors. And I start to joking and say, so tell them I am ready to come. And they phone me 2 months later. It was like after small meeting with the people, it becomes the real story, the dream realized.
And so for 10 years you've now been traveling around with them.
For 8. I joined company 2 years after this big event. So now I am 8 years on the road.
8 years on the road and much further into Shakespeare. Yeah. For a Polish person, it must have been a little bit difficult to assimilate Polish, and then you also play in French?
Yes. I better speak French as English. I learn English in Footsbarn, but my first language it was French. But it's just it's difficult to say. But when you arrive in Footsbarn, I joined the company for the theater. I really desire to play Shakespeare and to play in the way as Footsbarn do it. And after a couple of months, you are completely lost because it's a different way of working. You are with the English people and everything is different. And suddenly after a couple of months, you realize your brain is open. If tomorrow they ask to go to India and learn Indian language, I go to do it, Because you suddenly realize I am now in Europe with the company which is completely mixed of nationality and culture. And I still believe it's a way to do it in the world now, to completely open your brain and don't tell to the people this is the only way to do it. Just listen to other people around you. What's Footsbarn do it? It's great.
And so you're playing The Winter's Tale, which is one of Shakespeare's later plays, and very complex, a bit dark. What is your character?
It's very difficult character. It's a woman which for nothing, for any reason, suddenly lost everything. Lost her husband love, lost her child, lost another child which was just born and thrown away. And she got a very beautiful scene, which in the trail she defend herself without any violence. She just say, okay, I accept everything. I lost you, I lost my child, but I don't judge you. If you find it's a right way, I accept it. And it's something for me which go over time, over culture, over nationality. This kind of person would just say, I accept everything, I don't want to fight. Do it what you want. And it's something which I think it's very difficult in the reality to find it, the power to don't be angry with the people. And it's a good example for the people, not only for the woman, I think. Because I like a mother, like a woman, I can imagine if it's happened to me, probably you've got a bit of anger and violence inside yourself, and she don't have it. She accepts it, and I find this absolutely wonderful. It's make me think about about the people in Yugoslavia, the woman in Yugoslavia which lives the hell. And it's really, when I read the part, I've got the click about every people in the world which got the awful life. And I think it's a wonderful part, actually.
As she has been publicly accused, why, so she shall have a just and open trial.
Hermione, Queen for the worthy Leonte.
King of Sicilia, now here accused in the right of high treason in committing adultery with Polixenes, King of Bohemia, conspiring with Camilla to take away the life of our sovereign lord the king, our royal husband.
Since what I am to say must be but that which contradicts my accusation, it shall scarce put me to say, not guilty. You, my lord, best know my past life has been as continent, as chaste, as true, as I am now and happy. For behold me, a fellow of the royal band, a great king's daughter, the mother to hope for prince, here standing to pray and talk for life and honor, before who please to come and hear. I appeal to your own conscience. Sir, before Polixenes came to your court, how I was in your grace. If one jot beyond the bound of honor, or in act or will that way inclined, harden me the hearts of all that hear, and my ears of king cry fight upon my grave. For Polixenes, with whom I am accused, I do confess, I loved him, as in honor he required, with such a kind of love as may become a lady like me, with a love even such, so and no other as yourself command. Now for conspiracy, I know not how it tastes. All I know of it is that Camillo is an honest man, and why he left your court, the gods themselves and I are ignorant.
You knew of his departure, as you know what you undertake to do in his absence.
Sir, you speak a language that I understand not. My life stands in the level of your dreams which I lay down.
Your actions are my dreams! You had a bastard by Polixenes and I but dreamed it! Thy brat has been cast out like yourself, no father owning it. Now you shall feel our justice, in whose easiest passage look for no less than death.
Sir, spare your sorrows. The back which would fright me with, I seek. To me can life be no commodity. The crown and comfort of my life, your favor, I do give lost. For I do feel it gone, but know not how it went. My second joy, and first fruits of my body, from his presence I have bathed like one infections. My third comfort, starred most unlovely, it is from my breast, the juice of milk in its most innocent mouth, head out murder. Myself, on every post proclaim as strong, with immodest hatred the type of privilege denied, which longs to women of all fashion. Lastly, hurried here to this place in the open air, before I have got strength of limit! Now, my lord, tell me what blessings I have here alive that I should fear to die. Therefore proceed. But yet hear this. Mistake me not. No life, I prize it not as true, but for mine honor which I would free. If I shall be condemned upon surmises, all proof sleeping else but what your jealousies away, I tell you, 'tis rigor and not law. Your honor saw, I do affirm into the order. Apollo be my judge.
Apollo be my judge!
Polixenes kuttavillattavanagunnu Camillo olu satyamagunnu. Hermione is chaste, Polixenes blameless, Camillo, true subject. Praise be God, Leonis! Asuya Luaya, Ulfetta di Badiago. Leontes is a jealous tyrant, his innocent babe truly begun. Kuttiye kandattavan tavancham, sandadigalillade, vamsham anyam ninnu bodum. The king shall live without an heir, till that which is lost be found. The oracle has spoken.
And she loses everything completely. But in the end, what happens?
In the end, I think she lost one son, which is the big tragedy. But she forgave, which is incredible. You know, you spent 16 years hug in the back, presumably like a dead person. After 16 years, you just forgive. You find your daughter, and you forgive your husband. My God, if you can, all of us who can do this, the world will be the paradise, isn't it? It's why I think it's very difficult to say, because you know, when you read the text, it's so good writing, it's so powerful, and when you talk about it, you've got the impression it suddenly becomes like trivial, and it's not. I think what you can say to the people come see the show or read Shakespeare, it's really very powerful.
She embraces him. She hangs about his neck.
Turn, good lady, our prodigy is found.
Heinzi, you're a German and you're in this international troupe. How did you get in the Footsbarn Players?
Well, first of all, I was in Paris one summer. They played in Paris, and I saw the Romeo and Juliet. It was a kind of street version, and I liked it very much. And I just finished Lecoq School, which is an acting school in Paris, where a couple of the former members came from as well. Well, they did the school 20 years before me. So there were some kind of links, and actually my first teacher ever in theatre in Denmark was one of the founders of Footsbarn, called Jean-Paul Cook, who founded Footsbarn together with Oliver Foot. And so when I saw Footsbarn, I was kind of getting this feeling of when you start with theatre, you kind of go on a big discovery travel, and suddenly you know, wow, all this is possible. And then with Footsbarn, I kind of had this kind of, the first love I had with theatre was the kind of theatre Footsbarn makes.
Well, speaking of that, what kind of theatre do they make?
Well, it's difficult, because it's kind of now I'm almost 7 years here, and it's kind of every year I kind of think, well, what are we actually doing, But I think the base of Footsbarn is that that they are very good storytellers, but transforming stories into a scenario, or making obviously if you make a Shakespeare play, he provides you with the situations and the dynamics between the characters and all this, but the main aim is to tell the story and to get around all these human passions. It's not kind of what do we want to say or what do we want to especially focus on. No, it's just a popular way of storytelling, I think.
Now you're playing in the current one, The Winter's Tale, which is late Shakespeare, a bit dark, with something of a happy ending. What is your character?
In the first part, I play the young prince, which is about 12 years old maybe, and then I play a lord. What we always try is to be the maximum involved all the time. So we have a kind of chorus, which is the lords. So I'm part of that sometimes, and then in the second, in the last part, I play the old shepherd, which I don't know. After Shakespeare, he is 75 years old, and then 16 years later, he's almost 90.
Hey, Kleurnet, he so troubles me, this passenger. Oh, my gracious lord, shall I be your playfellow?
No, I'm none of you.
Why so?
You kiss me hard and speak to me as if I were a baby still.
And why is that my lord?
Not because your brows are decker, yet they say become some woman best, so that there be not too much shadow in the silly circular afternoon, made with a pen.
Who told you this?
I learned it out of women's face. Pray now, what colour are your eyebrows?
Blue, my lord.
Nay, that's a mock. I have seen a lady's nose that has been blue, but not her eyebrows.
Hark ye, the queen your mother rounds apace, and we shall present our services to a fine new prince one of these days. Then you come with us in rabbits. She has spread a pledge, a goodly bound. Good times encounter her. What wisdom stirs amongst you? Come, sir, now I am for you again. Pray you, sit by us until I sit there.
Merry as I shall be.
As merry as you will.
Is Ezekiel's best for winter. I have one of sprites and goblins.
Let's have that, good sir. Come, sit down.
There was a man, dwelt by a churchyard.
Nay, come, sit down.
I will let it softly. Yon cricket shall not hear it.
Come, my friend, and give it in my ear.
My lord! My lord! They've scared away 2 of my best sheep. Which I fear the wolf. We'll sooner find than the master. If anyone has interest by the seaside, browsing of ivy. Good be the will! What have we here? Name of mercy obey! It's a pretty one. A very, very pretty one. A boy or a child, I wonder. Very pretty one. Sure, sounds gay. This has been some stair work, some drag work, some behind the work. They were warmer than got this, and the poor thing is here. Oh,
open even now. Hello!
You say you've been now with the theatre group for 7 years. Do you see this as a kind of a life calling, or how's that going for you?
I mean, I always was completely in love with the circus. When I see a circus, it kind of, I remember when I was a child, I wanted to leave for the circus. I was certain to do it. And then later I discovered theatre and all this, and Footsbarn kind of it combines it all. So I think that's great, and we travel a lot. We to travel in combination with your work is fantastic, because you're not coming somewhere and just taking, you're also giving something to that place, and you meet different people which you would never meet if you would come as a tourist, or so that all these kind of things are. I think that's very special, but also it's not as we think it is to live on the road. It's not like that romantic or that kind of. It's the logistic side is sometimes very heavy. It's you have to drive many kilometers. You are a bit worried, will the wheel explode, or will something happen? And so there's all this kind of side which you have to really accept in your head. You have to say, this is how it works, because I'm not a born gypsy, but now I'm living like this for quite a long time. So one has to be prepared that it's not comfortable. In the same time, it has advantages which you don't have when you always stay in the same place. We have a little bit. Sometimes I feel this sickness of traveling. If we are in a place, and then when this place kind of is conquered, you think already about the next one. So it's kind of one has to be careful not always just to live in the. We know that something more exciting is coming up soon. So I think it's nice to be in Amsterdam, because we stay here for almost 4 weeks, so you have really more time to meet people and see the town, and it's a nice town.
Well, thank you very much for talking with us. Good luck with your play.